أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, today inshallah Azza wa Jal we begin Kitab Al-Hudood, the fixed penalties, and this is a very, very, very important chapter for your understanding of Islam in general, and then obviously the specific rulings regarding some of the penalties in Islam.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين. اللهم اغفر لنا وللشيخ ولوالديه وللحاضرين. قال المؤلف رحمنا الله وإياه في كتاب الحدود: ولا يجب الحد إلا على مكلف عالم بالتحريم، ولا يقيمه إلا الإمام أو نائبه، إلا السيد فإن له إقامته بالجلد خاصة على رقيقه القن، لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: إذا زنت أمة أحدكم فليجلدها، وليس له قطعه في السرقة ولا قتله في الردة، ولا جلد مكاتبيه ولا أمته المزوجة، وحد الرقيق في الجلد نصف حد الحر، ومن أقر بحد ثم رجع عنه سقط. فصل ويضرب في الجلد بصوت لا جديد ولا خلق، ولا يمد ولا يربط ولا يجرد، ويتقى وجهه ورأسه وفرجه، ويضرب الرجل قائما والمرأة جالسة، وتشد عليها ثيابها، وتمسك يداها، ومن كان مريضا يرجى برؤه أخر حتى يبرأ، لما روي عن علي رضي الله تعالى عنه أن أمة لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم زنت، فأمرني أن أجلدها، فإذا هي حديثة عهد بنفاس، فخشيت إن أنا جلدتها أن أقتلها، فذكرت ذلك للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال: أحسنت. فإن لم يرج برؤه وخشي عليه من السوط جلد بضغط فيه عيدان بعدد ما يجب عليه مرة واحدة، وهذا من الألغاز الحكيمة. بارك الله فيك. طيب. وإن اجتمعت حدود الله تعالى فيها قتل وسقط سائرها، ولو زنى أو سرق مرارا ولم يحد فحد واحدة. وإن اجتمعت حدود من أجناس لا قتل فيها استوفيت كلها، ويبدأ فالأخف منها، وتدرأ الحدود بالشبهات، فلو زنى بجارية له فيها شرك وإن قل أو ولده، أو وطئ في نكاح مختلف فيه، أو مكرها، أو سرق من مال له فيه حق أول ولده وإن سفل، أو من مال غريمه الذي يعجز من تخليصه منه بقدر حقه لم يحد. فصل ومن أتى حدا خارج الحرم ثم لجأ إلى الحرم، أو لجأ إليه من عليه قصاص لم يستوف منه حتى يخرج، لكن لا يباع ولا يشارى، وإن فعل ذلك في الحرم استوفى منه فيه. وإن أتى حدا في الغزو ولم يستوفى حتى يخرج من دار الحرب، والله أعلم.
طيب, we have a little bit to go through today inshallah Azza wa Jal, so I hope inshallah you brought your strong backs and strong knees. We begin with the Islamic concept of punishments in the first place. A lot of the concepts that you have in the Sharia, it's obviously extremely wise. And that extreme wisdom, a lot of it is easily understood by mankind. Like, for example, why we don't drink alcohol. Very, very, very easy to understand. Another one of those very easy concepts to understand, if you are just and you are sincere, is the concept of the fixed penalties. If you look at their reality and the conditions regarding them, you'll see that a lot of them are more deterrents than they are punishments. Like, for example, the cutting off the hand for the one who steals. If you were to go to Muslim countries, even the countries that still implement this till today, you don't see many people with their hands cut off. Why? Because people don't want to get their hand cut off, so they don't steal in the first place. if you were to look at the Sharia in its reality, you'll find it's so much more merciful than what we have as accepted modern Western forms of law and punishments today. If we were to look at the Islamic system and the current Western system, where we take our example here in Australia, where a lot of the crime has, if anything, jail time, and look at what works in reality, you'll find that the Sharia, it works. It works. Firstly, it works to solve the problem from its root. The root of the problem is a person not caring or a person loving dunya. In Islam, we call to self-accountability. Your iman, your faith should stop you from falling into this act in the first place. If you get away with it in this dunya, because a criminal usually commits the crime because he thinks he's going to get away with it. So in Islam, we told the person, even if you get away with it in this dunya, but you're getting good deeds and or sins, and so on the day of judgment, you're going to be held accountable. So maybe you got away with it in this dunya, but you got the hereafter where you can't get away with anything. It's up to Allah Azza wa Jalla how you're judged on that day. So we attack the root of the problem. Then with Islam, we don't just make something wrong or haram, and everything that leads up to it will make you fall into it. No, if something is not allowed, everything that leads up to it is also haram. Like fornication. Fornication is haram. Everything that leads up to it is also haram. Like unnecessary intermingling or being alone with a woman that's not your mahram in private, the touching or looking at haram, etc. You're not allowed to do it. It's haram, but ultimately Islam doesn't want you to fall into fornication. So it's not just about it being haram in of itself. Some people stupidly ask, Sheikh, if you shake the hand of a woman, what, she's going to get pregnant? Is it that big of a deal? No, it's not a big of a deal in and of itself. In and of itself. But where does it lead to? It's going to lead to something worse. As for any other concepts that don't have this, you also have with the Sharia the aspect of mercy even in these punishments. Mercy even in these punishments. So on top of it being a deterrent, now there's mercy even in it how it's carried out. If a person, let's just say they were to get their hand cut off, it doesn't mean that their family doesn't grow up without a father. It doesn't mean that for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they're outside of the normal functionality of society. It doesn't mean that just because a person committed a sin and was punished for it, that now they're outcasted from society. No, they're still your Muslim brother or still your Muslim sister, and you still engage them in the community, etc. So there's an aspect of mercy. This is very brief. I'm being very, very, very brief. If you go to what we have now as an accepted system, because people call this barbaric, but you come to what we have, let's just say in Australia, in jail. I don't know how many of you know people in jail, but it is extremely barbaric if you look at its reality. People think, oh, okay, it's nice, someone's in a room, they've got clothing, they've got food, they're housed okay, etc. Firstly, does it attack the root of the problem? No, the Western system doesn't attack the root of the problem. It doesn't solve the root of the problem. Why are people constantly committing crime? Why are people constantly looking to get rich in bad ways or illegal ways or not caring about the law? There's a big problem. There's a big problem. The people, you haven't fixed the individuals in society. There's no focus on how to make yourself a better person. Number two, you haven't solved the problems. If you look at what works and what doesn't work, you can go, like a lot of the non-Muslims even, they praise the safety in many Muslim countries. Like you could leave your laptop, your phone in an open public place and no one will touch it for hours. If anyone touches it, it's to take it to the right place for them to say to the people, someone left this here. If they come back, then give it to them. And it could be worth thousands of dollars. No problem. You live now in a first world country. A first world country, a very wealthy country, a country with a lot of social services, and still the crime rate is through the roof. Why? Why aren't people deterred away from committing these crimes, even though they know there's a potential for jail? Because people aren't scared of jail. Jail's not scary. A lot of people actually look at it as an investment. I've said this before. If you look at it like a normal job on average, you're getting paid how much? On average. Let's just say $100,000 a year. Let's just throw it out there, okay? $100,000 a year. Tayyib. A lot of the criminals, he'll go, brother, I'll go on a spree. If I go do a few robberies, let's say I end up with $1 million. As an example, I end up with $1 million. If I get locked up, I might get locked up for 3-4 years, especially if it's my first offense. Usually even less than that. But let's just say I get away with 3-4 years. How much money did he make? $1 million. How long did he get locked up for? 4 years. 3-4, let's just say 4 years. That's without parole, without anything. On average, how much did he make a year? No. On average, if you work it out, $250 a year. He's still up. But that's without tax. That's without tax. Now, I'm not joking when I say a lot of criminals think like this. He's like, yeah, I might get done. It's true I might get done. But by the time I go to jail, when I come out, I've got $1 million. And a lot of criminals now, they're learning how to become entrepreneurs. Because a lot of the criminals, I'm sure the police know already, a lot of the criminals, that $1 million, do you think they just leave it sitting there? No, they want to work their money. Because when they get out, they want to be legit. So he's behind bars, now, and outside there's someone working his money. So that $1 million might turn into $2, $3, $4 million by the time he gets out. So 4 years, average of $250, if it stayed like that, when you come out, you may have much more than that, and now it's legit. So was it a deterrent? Not really. Some of the boys are looking like, you know what, it doesn't sound too bad. Be very careful, Shabab. It's still haram. Now, but the reality is, a lot of boys are thinking like this. So it's not a deterrent. It's not a deterrent. And that's why the jails are full. That's why the jails are full. In Australia, I don't know how much of it is privatized, but if you look at America, it's actually an incentive for people to go to jail. Because people are making a lot of money off the people that are in jail. And that's why the jails are constantly full. It's a problem. They need people to go to jail because they're making money off it. Now, so the deterrency is not there. You have another problem with the jail system. Sometimes you go in as a simple criminal. Because now you're in jail, you're mixing with everyone. There's a jungle now. And you get to know people. And so now new opportunities open up. You have someone that went in, for example, for a fray. He had a fight in the street. He got found guilty. He got sent to jail. Let's just say 6 months. But when he was in jail, he might have been sold up with someone who is like a hitman, or he organizes hits on people, like murders. Now this guy doesn't have money. He got into a fight. You got a guy in his cell telling him, if you want, when we get out, hit me up. I can get you jobs 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand. Imagine a guy who's got no money, now having a guy tell him, in one hit I can get you 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand, sometimes more than that, depending on how your skill level is. Now you open up doors of fitna for the person. Or even if it's not murder, to that extreme, but for example, you can now become part of an enterprise or a network. You go out as an individual, you go there's a bikie gang, that bike gang introduce you to them. Or some sort of criminal network. Now you're introduced to the game. And they say there's opportunity. You want to make money, we can help you. You want strength, you want friends, you want that brotherhood, we can help you. So someone may go in for something simple, they come out for something much worse. Something very common is drugs in the jail system. You go in for something stupid, it could be a driving offense. You went in for a driving offense, maybe you're going to get a year and a half, 2 years, something very bad. Okay, but your crime wasn't that bad, but maybe you just committed it multiple times, so now they put you locked up for a year, 2 years. You don't have a drug problem. You get to jail, everyone's on drugs. Everyone's on drugs. I forgot what the medical term is, if there's any pharmacists. They call it boop. It's like a replacement for heroin. Now, so they go in, you got boop, you get a heroin addiction. By the time you come out, you're addicted to heroin. You went in with no drug problem. You come out with a drug problem. You see the problems? This is all in jail, and it happens, and it's happening over the place, and it's happening all the time. A person goes in, let's say he comes out of jail. Let's say he came out with no problems at all. If he's been in jail 5 years, 10 years time, 5 years, 10 years time, when he comes out, he struggles to function like a normal human. I remember when we were younger, and some of the brothers, their older brother or their older cousin was in jail for a while, and technology moves so quickly. So by the time they came out, I remember there was iPhones. For a guy to come out and to see an iPhone, it's like we got visitors from Mars that came with new technology. They couldn't believe that these things exist. Like, what the heck is this? Because when they went in, the coolest thing, if you remember for the older boys, was like a Nokia 250. Naham, the coolest thing was that he had a blue screen. That was the coolest thing about a phone. Now you come out and you've got a computer in the palm of your hand. So they didn't know how to function in society. They didn't know how to use computers. They didn't know how to apply for jobs. They didn't know how to work with the technology that was needed to function properly in society. So it was a big issue. On top of that, now you've got a criminal record. So you come out, and now for you to get a normal job is almost impossible. Because who's going to employ you? You have to put that you've got a criminal record, and the company can go check. So you're almost outcasted from living a normal life anymore. So what happens with a lot of these people? They fall straight back into crime. And that's why the numbers of people that go into jail and come out, the numbers of them reoffending and going back into jail is extremely high. This is not something that we simply say, khalas, now this is it's not barbaric. This is a humane way of being of treating a person in their crime at all. It's not like that at all. You go to jail if someone's been in there, for example, 10 years. All right, they've done a crime, whatever it is, they've been in there for 10 years. If they're married, now who's going to look after their wife? If they got kids, now who's going to raise their kids? So they like to say, in Australia, you do the crime, you do the time. The Australian knew it. You do the crime, you do the time. In Islam, you can get punished. You can get punished, but punish the person. The kid who grows up seeing his dad in jail. Let's say he's from 0 to 10, his dad was in jail. That kid that grows up, most likely what's going to happen to that kid? Where's he going to end up when he's an adult? In jail as well. That's what he got used to. That's why he's seen his dad. That was normal to him. Then he didn't have a father figure to raise him right and wrong, teach him right and wrong. Okay, let's say he stole, he got his hand cut off, that dad learned. He's going to make sure his son, inshallah, never steals in his life. He's going to make sure his son doesn't repeat that mistake, inshallah. But the children, now you go for a jail visit, you go there and wallah, you're seeing like little kids and wallah, it's very upsetting. It's very upsetting to see these little kids because in the future, there's a very high chance they're going to be in that same spot, subhanAllah. Their wives, a lot of the time, they want to leave them because how are you going to be patient for 10, 20 years in some cases? It's very harsh. It's a very harsh system. And a lot of even like Western scholars, they study this and they talk about it not being a fair system and the problems that it causes in society for the individual long term. It's not a fair system at all. Okay, it's a very, very, very problematic system. That's on top of the people that get taken advantage of in jail. He could be like a simple person, so he comes in and he gets used. Like for example, he could be an absolute nobody, but he's got a bit of money. So what they'll do is they'll tell him, listen, if you don't get your family to buy ups, like if you got a bit of money in jail, you can get extra things like noodles, you get tuna cans, extra to what they give you. So they'll tell him, listen, you better make sure that your family puts money in our account, otherwise you're going to get bashed every week. Every week you're going to get bashed. So he doesn't want to get bashed, so he gets taken advantage of. Okay? So jail is not an easy place. Jail is not an easy place, and a lot of people go in for a small crime and end up staying a lot longer. One of the people I know of, he went in, his original sentence was less than 3 years. His original sentence, less than 3 years. Because of certain circumstances, now he's doing about 18 years. Okay? So from 3 years, now, and he went in when he was about 18, 19 years old. Now he's doing 18 years. It's not easy. Okay, it's not easy at all. It's the system that you're in. The system that you're in. One of the brothers, he kept getting time added to his sentence, little time, like 6 months, 1 year, because there's a fight. You're in a fight. What do? Just stand there? You can't. You have to fight back. But because you fought back, you're found guilty. And you found guilty, and now we add to your sentence. It's a very, very, very harsh system. Okay? There's a lot of corruption, as with all the justice that we talk about. There's a lot of corruption, like parole and all these other nice things. Anyways, enough on jail. Don't get a jail. Okay, don't get a jail. It's not nice. One of the brothers, when he was inside, he said, if any of the boys want to know what jail is like, take your mattress and a kettle and a toaster and put it in your toilet. Okay? Go to your bathroom and just and see how fun it is over there. And you may handle it for 3 hours, but try doing that for 12 months straight. And by the way, you don't get let out every day. If there's a reason to lock you down, they call lockdown. If there's a reason to lock you down, you get locked down. And if there's a fight and the police are investigating, you may be locked in your jail cell for 2 years, for 2 weeks, until they sort it all out. because they won't let you out. They don't even let you out to the yard. You're literally stuck in a room. This will be massive. This is king size. Very small. Okay, very, very, very small. For 2 weeks. It's not easy. It's not easy. Jail's not easy for a lot of people, and you just got to be very, very, very careful. Wallahi, going. That's on top of, like I said, that's just for you. It's hard. Just think of your mum, think of your dad, think of your kids. Inshallah, if you have kids, it's a very barbaric system. Very, very, very harsh system. One of the brothers, he got married. He had a child. When his child was 5 or 6 weeks old, he got convicted of a crime and he had to go to jail. Now, his wife had to drive hours away, and just think like your wife with a newborn baby having to drive hours to visit you on a weekend. Like, you can't do that all the weekend, let alone his mum and an old lady. You see like some old men. And by the way, when you go to visit, you can't go to the bathroom when you go to visit. So some of the old men that have like, it might be his father or his grandfather wants to visit, but he needs to go to the bathroom regularly. Sometimes he can only see his son half an hour. So he has to drive 2-3 hours to see his son for half an hour, and then he wants to go to the bathroom, mate, you're not allowed to come back in. Okay, you go out, that's it, you're done. Anyways, it's not an easy thing to do. If you have people in jail, make sure you visit them. طيب. Some of the rulings regarding the Hudood in Islam. He says, rahimahullah, the had punishment is only binding against one who is mukallaf, legally liable, and aware of the prohibition. No one other than the imam or his deputies, authorities may execute it. So the had punishment, if there's a specific, the had is something specifically mentioned in Islam that there's a punishment. Okay? If there's something illegal or wrong or haram, and there isn't a specific punishment, and the Sharia leaves it up to the government to decide what the punishment is, this is called ta'zir. Ta'zir, and we'll speak about ta'zir a bit later on, inshallah. So the had punishment is only binding against one who is mukallaf. Mukallaf, yani he understands right and wrong. One of the brothers, he went in for terrorism. Naam. This guy was mentally insane. We know him personally. We dealt with him daily personally. He was mentally sick. Okay? To show you types of corruption, how if the government wants to be corrupt, it will be corrupt. 2 juries found him innocent because he's mentally unstable. He's not normal. He's not a normal person. And 2, they eventually found a jury that convicted him of the crime. But you have 2 juries that found him. This guy is not normal. He is not normal. Okay? And there's a big conflict of interest. When you have, as a government, your own psychologists that assess a person. But if they want to pull some strings, of course you can easily find them innocent or mentally capable of understanding the crimes they committed. The guy is a problem. None of you, I think, are going to know who he is, and I don't think it was in the news. One of the brothers, to show you how sick this person is, okay? One of the brothers, when they were talking about Jannah and Jahannam, they were talking about like if a person can't handle like boiling hot water, how are they going to handle the hellfire? This brother was locked up with him. And then he said, one day we were in our cell, and we just hear scream. And then they called out to him, are you all right? He goes, yeah. They go, what happened? He goes, I poured hot water to see if I could handle it. Like what went through your mind? You know you can't handle it. Why would you do that? But to show you that he's mentally sick. Okay, he's mentally sick. He's already convicted. But like these are things that if the government was just in these affairs, there's no way someone like that would get convicted. No way. Okay, it's a very, very, very big problem. So there's a lot of corruption when it comes to this. Wallahu musta'an. All of the things, anyway. And aware of the prohibition. So the person has to know that it's haram. Aware of the prohibition. So it's legally, the person is mentally capable of making the right decision, knowing right and wrong. And he has to be a person who knows that it's haram. There's something very important about that wording. Who can get it? Jazakallah khairan. No. Alimun bit-tahrim. Something very, very, very specific. Mumtaz. He knows that it's haram, even if he doesn't know that there's a punishment for it. There's a big difference. Someone may commit a crime. Let's say stealing. and we go to cut off his hand under Sharia. And he goes, pause. I didn't know that if I steal, I get my hand cut off. We say, did you know it was haram? He says, yes. Khalas. Then you get punished because you knowing it's haram, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. It's different if someone doesn't know that it's haram. Let's say there's a new Muslim. Okay? This happened a while ago. A very long time ago, one of the brothers, like an older Australian and Anglo-Saxon man, became Muslim, and the brothers wanted to visit him. So when they rocked up at his house, he was holding a cold one in the stubby. So I know he's drinking beer, etc. But because he's a new Muslim, there very well may be a chance he didn't know. Okay, or maybe he understood that he can wean himself off it or something. Now, the point is, there may be situations where a person doesn't know that something's haram. It is very well possible. Okay, you may have someone that says, okay, stealing usually, but let's say fornication. Okay, maybe a man, he's been with his girlfriend for 20 years. Maybe he's even married her, but let's say she's Buddhist. So under Australian law, he married her through a celebrant, but in the Sharia, a Muslim man can't be married to a Buddhist or a Hindu, only a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew. Okay, so he thought, I can still sleep with her because she's my wife under Australian law. In Islam, we say no. But let's say he didn't know that. He didn't know that it's not allowed. So that person won't get punished because he doesn't even know that it is haram. Okay, so we'll teach him, etc. But if a person knows that something is haram, even if they don't know the punishment for it, they're still found guilty. Okay, but like I said, it's very common for a new Muslim, for a person that lives amongst the Muslims, it's very hard for him to come up with this excuse. Okay, if you live in a Muslim society, for you to say, I didn't know drinking alcohol was haram. Everyone knows that it's haram. So there has to be some reasonable justification for why you didn't know. That's why the most common is a new Muslim. And the way of the prohibition, no one other than the Imam and his deputies, authorities may execute it. This is a very important condition. No one is able to carry out the Hudood except the Imam, except the Islamic government, and who he appoints to in his place, like the judge in a province or a governor in a province, etc. As for, wallah, 5 mates, and this happened unfortunately in Sydney, someone was doing something wrong, so they carry out the whipping, for example. No, that's not allowed. It's not you and your mates that do this. Even if the person says, I want you to do it to me, no, you're not allowed. Okay? This is carried out only by the Muslim leader, the leader of the country, the authority, the government, and those who he gives permission to. Not done by any Joe Blow. Okay? The only exception the Prophet ﷺ gave him, because he doesn't translate things to do with slavery, because of it not being as practical, but we'll just mention it in passing. The only exception is the slave owner, if the slave that he owns commits fornication. Naam, and there's rules regarding that, we won't get into it, but that's the only exception to the Imam being the one who carries out the punishment. If one confesses to a crime punishable by a had, then recants the confession, the had is dropped. So the Hudood, you need a strong evidence, and each one has their own evidence. You need a strong evidence to find the person guilty. One of the evidences is the person confessing. They come themselves and they say, for example, I want to be cleansed. And it happened many times with the companions of not many times, but it happened with some companions of the Prophet ﷺ. No one had evidence against them. They came and confessed themselves that I committed fornication or adultery. I want to be punished under the Sharia for me to be cleansed. Islamically speaking, what's better? There are hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, if anyone falls into a sin, فَلْيَسَتِرْ بِسِتْرِ اللَّهِ, or كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, let him cover through the cover of Allah. Hide your sin, don't come out and expose, or don't even come for the punishment. But sincerely repent to Allah Azza wa Jal. But can a person choose to come and confess and have the punishment carried out? Yes. Why? Because the punishment, it is a cleansing. If a person is punished for one of the punishments, then that's automatically their punishment, and they won't get punished a second time for it in the hereafter. So it's automatically a cleansing for the individual. So if they confess to the crime and then they recant, they take their confession back, we can't hold that against them. Someone came to us and said, I committed zina, I want the punishment taken on me. The Imam might advise him, khalas, go and repent, etc. Or ask certain questions. Maybe you done something else, and like the Prophet ﷺ did, and maybe you only touched her, maybe you only kissed her, maybe you were not thinking straight, whatever it is. But the person, he insists, no, I committed zina and I want the punishment carried out on me. Now, then it's carried out Islamically. But if he recants, he says, listen, I thought I did, but I didn't. Okay? For whatever reason, he lies, doesn't lie, doesn't matter. That's between him and Allah Azza wa Jal. Then we don't carry out the punishment on him. And this happened in the story of Ma'iz, when he confessed, and then as they went to punish him, he wanted to run away, and they continued. And the Prophet ﷺ said, هَلَّا تَرَكْتُمُوهُ, why didn't you leave him alone? Okay? Part of the wisdom is, it's his confession, it's his evidence. He removed the evidence. Khalas, you don't have any evidence back against the person, so you leave them. Wallahu a'lam. Tayyib. Subsection in the flogging, in the whipping. There's different types of punishments. We'll speak about the whipping first. In flogging, the whip used should neither be new nor worn out. In the middle. If it's brand new, it's very what? Very hard. And if it's worn out, it's very, not very soft, but it's soft. Okay? So it should be something in the middle. Okay? Something in the middle. So they'll feel the punishment. That's the point of the punishment, for them to feel the pain. Okay? Something that hurts. It's a cleansing. So they'll feel it, but we don't want to get extreme in it. The person being flogged is not to be laid on the ground, restrained, or stripped of his or her clothing. Okay, so we're honoring the person that is being punished. The flogger should spare the face, the head, and external genitalia. Yani, you're not allowed to hit the face or the head or the private parts. Where do they hit? The norm is the back, but it may be other parts of the body also. The man is flogged standing, while the woman is flogged sitting. Why? Why would the woman be flogged sitting and not standing?
Did they not cover their face? The women?
كيف؟
لما حد الزنا يغطي وجه المرأة وبعدوه عشان ما يشوف كذا.
طيب حتى إذا وقفت فيك تغطي وجهها. This is a قاعدة in Islam. القواعد مضطردة. Yeah, good. Okay? Because it's astar laha. It's more modest for her. Okay? Because obviously if she's paying and like she's going to be like moving in certain situations, etc., it's going to be hard for her to remain properly covered. Now, and even though she's being punished, but again, there's honor. We're honoring the person. Yes, it's public, but we're not here to embarrass the person where their clothes are coming off and they're like, no. She's sat down, okay, so that she's able to control herself more, and it's more covering for her. Okay, subhanAllah, the Sharia, it's always looking to make sure that the woman is in the most modest position possible, even when there's a punishment. Her clothing should be fastened on her, okay, so that it doesn't come loose. Because if she's wearing loose clothing, very loose clothing, and she, for example, like her arms are uncovered underneath her jilbab, as an example. If she's going to be hit and she throws her arm, and then her whole arm becomes uncovered, okay? This is a problem, because now her awrah becomes uncovered. So on the edges, usually, they'll tighten the clothing, or in another way. And her hands held. Why isn't the man held down and the woman is held down? Not held down, sorry. Her hands are held. Good, because she's more sensitive. She's going to react a lot more to the pain. She's going to react a lot more to the pain, and we don't want her, again, to become unnecessarily uncovered. If one is sick but expected to recover, the punishment will be deferred until he or she recovers. So if someone, let's say, they've got a bad flu, as an example, or they've got a wound that you don't want to get infected, okay, through more punishment, or they've got a broken limb, which is going to make the punishment worse. We wait until they're recovered, so it's safer for them to go through the punishment. This is because of what has been reported on the authority of Ali radiallahu anhu, that a slave woman belonging to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam committed adultery, so he ordered me to flog her, but she had recently given birth to a child, and I was afraid that if I flogged her, I might kill her because of her weakness and the loss of blood. So I mentioned that to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, you have done well. You need to delay until she becomes better. So even in these punishments, there's mercy looked out for this individual. If recovery is not expected and there is a concern about the safety of flogging, then he or she will be struck once with a handful of as many branches as the number of times he or she should be flogged. So you get, for example, a branch and you can put them together where it's like, let's say the flogging is 80 times. They'll get 80 and put it together and they can hit once. Okay? So technically they got flogged 80 times. Okay, but this is if they're in a very, very, very weak position. So they did get the punishment, but it was done as easily as possible for that person. You still have 10 minutes of energy? Okay, inshallah. They're all hating you right now. Subsection, I'm trying to go through it as quickly as possible, just so you don't focus too much on the parts that are not as relevant for you. Subsection, if many had punishments come due for Allah Azza wa Jal against one person, then these include the death penalty, then he will be killed and the rest are all dropped. Let's say the person stole, which is cutting off the hand, and drank alcohol, which is flogging, and they committed ridda. Okay, they left Islam. So you're not going to flog and chop off the hand and kill the person. خلاص, just kill the person and send them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he commits fornication or theft several times and the had punishments are not executed, only one had punishment will be binding. Meaning, let's say he committed zina and he was busted 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, he got busted 4 times committing zina. But there's no had punishment that was carried out on him yet. Okay? And now he's found guilty, he'll only be punished for 1. Like when you take an oath and you break it multiple times. You say, for example, Wallahi, I'm not going to eat apples. And then you ate 15 apples. Okay, it's still only 1 kafara. If many had punishments of different sorts, excluding the death penalty, are binding, they will be carried out starting with the lightest. So if different punishments, but not death, different punishments, like let's say, again, he stole and he drank alcohol and he was found guilty of both. So both of them will be carried out, but you start with the lightest. And he flog him first, and then, when possible, cut off his hand. Had punishments will be averted if there is any doubt. This is a very, very, very important point. تُدْرَأُ الْحُدُودُ بِالشُّبُهَاتِ. Had punishments must be averted if there is any doubt, ambiguity. If there is now a case where there's a chance it didn't happen, or the chance it wasn't him, or there's a chance that the person misunderstood, etc., then we don't punish. Then we don't punish the person with the hudud. Okay, very, 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 very important point. We have to be certain of the case and the person being guilty. If a man has intercourse after a questionable marriage or under duress, or he steals from a property in which he or his descendants have some entitlement, or he steals money from an opponent who is not fulfilling his rights, then he will not be punished by the had. If a man has intercourse after a questionable marriage or under duress, let's say someone, it's not halal, it is completely haram. Let's say someone, again, let's just say new Muslim, he thought, mad mut'a marriage, hectic, okay? So he goes and does mut'a, okay? And then, pause, brother, what are you doing? You can't do this, haram, this zina, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He says, it was like a marriage. I thought it was allowed. I thought Muslims are allowed to do it. We said, no, not Muslims, okay? As Sunnis, we're not allowed to do it. We don't do this stuff. So he thought it was allowed. He thought it was allowed. Okay, well, there's a question mark on it. So we don't punish the had because there's a question mark on it. Okay? Or if someone gets married to a woman without a wali. He thought, I heard there was an opinion that you can get married to a woman without a wali, without a guardian. So there's a question mark on it. Okay? So even though it's wrong and there may be other forms of punishment, except that we don't carry out the had. Okay? Because there's a question mark on it. Doesn't mean he's not committing haram. It just means that we don't carry out the punishment over on him. Or a person stole, but he believes he's got right in it. He believes he's got right in it. a person, subcontractor does work for someone, and that person owes him $10,000. So and the person's not paying. Says, all right, you don't want to pay me? I'm going to go get my $10,000 whether you like it or not. So he goes and steals his car. Okay, he goes and steals his car. That's his $10,000. So technically, did he steal? The answer is yes. But did he steal like a normal thief would or a bad thief would? No. He stole what he believed to be his haq, his right. So he believed he has some right in it, and he does have some right in it because the person owes him money. It's called al-dhafar bil-haq. This is a completely different matter. So the punishment is not carried out on him. But this is again, if you become a judge, you have to make sure you know what is actually a matter that's questionable and that which is not. Subsection, if one commits a had crime while outside of the haram and then seeks refuge inside of it, or if one is liable for retribution, seeks refuge inside of it, the had will not be executed until he leaves the haram. If a person committed like theft outside of the haram being like in Mecca, someone commits a crime outside of Mecca, okay, and then they sought refuge inside of it because they're meant to be safe there. So we won't punish them if they committed it outside. We won't punish them inside of the haram. We won't punish them inside. But what do? However, he will not be sold to or bought from. And you can't help him stay there. Okay, you can't go wash his clothes for him and give him food. No. That person, you leave him. Because eventually he's going to get desperate, he's going to have to leave. And when he comes out, that's when you punish him. If he commits that crime in the haram, then the had will be executed there. If he stole in the haram, then no problem, you punish him there. Because he's deserving of it. And there's some difference of opinion on this matter. If he commits a had crime while on a military exhibition, the had will not be executed until he leaves the abode of war. This will end off with, inshallah, because again it shows from the wisdom of Islam. طيب. Dar al-Harb, you got a Muslim state and you got a non-Muslim state, and the Muslim state is fighting this other non-Muslim state, and now they're at war. So let's say a soldier who's in the war commits theft. Now the Islamic ruling is that we cut off his hand. But if he's a soldier in the battle, we don't do it. Why? La. How? La. We're still going to punish him, but not there.
الضعف المسلمين الضعف المسلمين
After the war, take him back.
Yeah, but why are you going to punish him there?
Because it's going to help people like.
Because they're at war.
So the non-Muslims say they're killing their people?
One of it is for the non-Muslims not to be able to say, oh look, these guys are harming themselves, but something even bigger, more obvious.
Is it because like it's the same concept as the haram? No.
مش هيحصل قضاء في نص الحرب.
لا ممكن يكون قاضي.
It's the priority of having to defeat the enemy before you.
Close. It's along those lines.
يعني الفائدة الأكبر يعني
جزاك الله خيرا.
بيترجم.
ما هي الفائدة الأكبر؟
إنك تكسب العدو.
لا. Anyone else want to try?
Demoralize the army.
That individual. What happens? That guy, he stole. Now you tell him, Habib, come here, I'm going to cut off your hand. What's the chance of happening?
Peace. He wouldn't be able to fight.
You don't want that person to become upset, because if you're fighting, you're sacrificing potentially your life. Now you committed a sin, so you're deserving of the punishment. But we're human beings. Our nafs gets involved. If a person says, man, I'm going to be stoned to death potentially, he may say, you know what, man, I'm out. And he goes where? To seek refuge. To the enemy. He can go to the enemy. Naam, to seek refuge and safety there. When people are desperate, they do some crazy things. We spoke about jail. How many people snitch on each other to get 1 or 2 years off their sentence? They'll go and snitch on their own family members, their friends that they grew up with from preschool. Now, people, they committed the crime together. They'll go and throw them under the bus for a reduced sentence. And that's just not that you got off the crime altogether for a reduced sentence. Some people, in order to save themselves or a limb, they'll be like, you know what, I don't want to put myself in that position, and they go to the enemy. And the enemy is obviously not going to just accept them with open arms. Now come, we'll give you something in return. And they will give you safety, but you have to tell us where the army is, you tell us the strategy, etc. Okay? So in order to not to demoralize the army, all of the things that you mentioned are correct. In order to not to demoralize the army or to get rid of a soldier, etc. But from the biggest of harms is this person not going to the enemy and turning against the Muslims and making the Muslims weaker by giving up their positions and their strategy, etc. And this is again from the wisdom of the Sharia. Inshallah, we'll stop here and continue next week. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله محمد وعلى آله محمد وصحبه أجمعين. Any question about anything that we mentioned first and foremost? Naam.
What happens, like, the person applying the punishment to someone, say they exceeded,
On purpose?
not on purpose, like, say they exceeded,
خلاص, by accident, nothing.
or on purpose.
On purpose, they'll get punished. But it's very rare.
Is it the same?
The people, you don't just get any jail to carry out the punishment. The people that do are very, very, very well versed in what they do, and they're upright people. Next question.
ماذا يلبسون عند الجلد؟
ثيابهم العادية. أو ممكن في بعض الدول الآن يكون عندهم لباس معين مثل لباس السجن، لكن في الشرع اللباس العادي.
يعني ممكن واحد يتقل في اللبس يعني؟
لا، إذا ثقل يجرب ينزع عنه. هذه من الاستثناءات القاعدة. The person wears normal clothing. If they're going to be punished, they wear normal clothing. Now, with like prisons and holding cells and the like, you may have someone that wears specific type of clothing, like prison, what do they call it? Prison. Yeah, when the government gives it to you, or the prison gives it to you, they may be given that to wear, but they can't wear like thick clothing. If they wear thick clothing, that's the exception to when you remove clothing from them. Any other questions regarding anything mentioned tonight, Shabab?
You said the soldier stealing from the Muslims or stealing from the...
That's an example. He committed any crime. He committed zina. خلاص. Any other questions, Shabab?
So you got all these punishments. How does for someone to get prison, how does...
In the Sharia, there's nothing called prison.
No prison.
It can be used by the government. It can be used by the government. But this is not, it's not it's for the big crimes. It's not something that's there regularly. Give them a fine, give them community service, whip them, find something else. But prison, especially prolonged prison sentences, this is not very good at all.
How do you implement the punishment in the Western society?
You don't. In the Western society, you can't.
So let's say you want to forgive, you want to cleanse your slate.
Sincere repentance. Sincerely ask Allah to forgive you. Any other questions, Shabab? Any general questions? Going once, twice, naam.
Tahiyat al-Masjid outside of a masjid, let's say you're praying in a hall, for example.
Praying in a hall? Is it tahiyat al-hall or is it tahiyat al-masjid? سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. If it's a masjid, or say rulings of the masjid, then yes, you pray tahiyat al-masjid. But if it's just like a place like at work, they pray, for example, dhuhr together or asr together. But they don't pray it like a masjid, like Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, they don't.